Okay, it seems to be working now. That's good. Well, thank you. I just have a couple of quick messages for tonight, and then I want to give you guys a chance to talk as well. But maybe before I start, does anyone have anything they just want to sort of get off their chest or express or have a question about the process of where we stand now or anything like that? Okay. Well, again, if you do, just feel free to chime in anytime you want. So I guess I've just said we've got three things to share with you. One, just stress that you need to get your proposals approved this week. So far, I've got I think 4 out of the total 10 approved. So for those of you who have not, please feel free to continue to send me drafts. I will continue to turn them around as fast as I can, and we'll go through this iterative process to the extent where I feel that the topics is sufficiently clear, and you have a pretty good idea where you're going to get your data and what you're going to do with that data, so that you can succeed in the next round and then the final drafts. Uh, you'll see on the schedule that your midterm drafts, the next deliverable, aren't due for another month. But I strongly suggest that you sort of keep pace with this. You're expected to finalize and fully develop the first sections of your paper: the title, the introduction, the literature review, hypothesis, data and variables, and statistical methods. Um, you might want to spend this time up until the next deliverable to start doing, the most time-consuming aspects of any research project, which is sort of data wrangling and validating your variables. And the I said the midterm drafts won't be due until Tuesday, October 15th. But please don't wait until then to send me a draft. So on or before that, hopefully before that, send me what you have, and I'll give you feedback as soon as I can. Um, and then the third item I have, and by the way, I'll write this up and send it to you. Is that the next scheduled meetup, I can't make due to a conflict. So the next meeting after that will be on Monday, October 14th. And so that'll give you enough, that'll be like this meeting, an opportunity to ask questions, ask about the feedback I've given on your draft, and, uh, you know, uh, field any questions that you may have, not about your own work, but also the course in general. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I'd like to open it up to see if anyone has any questions, again, about their own particular project, about the course in general. Um, any questions you might have on the nature of the feedback, um, uh, or anything else. Anything? Okay,
I did have a question about the deliverables. I know that you require the Word output.
uh-huh.
When we're designing our entire project, is there room for any like Dash or Shiny apps, or like maybe using like a book down for later on for the presentation of the final project? Or would you like it all in Microsoft Word?
um, no, a lot of people do that and do have separate presentations, and they use a bunch of different presentation tools. What I like to say is that the Word doc, because it has editing features and track changes and things like that, I prefer that, or I require that for the actual document. I encourage you, but not require you, to use any other applications or presentation materials that you want for your final presentation. So, and final posting too. So there's some people that like to do a separate PowerPoint presentation. The people do a separate thing in GitHub, with the different programs and the different code they use. That's fine. I think that's great. I think I want to encourage you to do, showcase your work to your network and to your potential employers. But in terms of just helping me grade and assess and edit the work, I think if you email it to me in Word, that makes it possible for me to put my edits in quickly and turn them around. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. So again, the Word document is the requirement. All the other stuff is strongly encouraged, but not required. Any let's see. Harpreet, any questions on your end? Or Mehdi or Neil? Neil just joined us. Neil, you have any questions about the process or your feedback or anything like that? Okay. Do you think the feedback is helpful? Is it? Hello, Neil.
Hello.
Yes. You got a question?
Keep on it.
Okay. I've got a question for Harpreet that you might all want to hear. I have a question on my research project. Can hypothesis be on two separate things? Currently, I am working on a portfolio optimization project. Can a hypothesis be on two separate things? Well, you can have two different hypotheses if that's what you mean. Yes, you can have. I require at least one hypothesis, but if you want to have a primary hypothesis and maybe two other hypotheses, that's fine. In fact, that's typical in a research project to have, at least three or so hypotheses. I only require one, but if it makes sense to do more than one, then yeah, by all means, yeah. Does that answer your question, though? Oh, he certainly. He further, instead of focusing on HRP optimization, can also include machine learning to choose weight. Yeah, sure. I mean, just make sure you frame it as you're using these different techniques to demonstrate a certain outcome that you believe might be more predictive or more accurate in terms of their either more accurate or a higher value, a higher return of portfolio X versus portfolio Y. So just clarify that. But yes, by all means.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Our assumption, I mean, at least my assumption, I mean, if say that I'm trying to find a relationship, and based on that relationship between predictor variables and dependent variables, I plan to create a model. But if after the research I find that there is no really relationship, any viable relationship that you can make create a model based on, so that part is totally gone. So what happens in that sense?
That's a frequent fear. So you're not alone. What I would say was that if you come across, I mean, there are many projects that you do come across that. If you start to play around with some other variables, you might be able to find some relationship. And if that all else fails, then you can at least couch it as this was tried. This was the results did not prove to be supported the null hypothesis, but here's why I think that was the case. Or if you can sort of explain it and treat it in a statistical manner, then that's it's not optimal, but I'm not going to ding you for the research not working out. Not all research does work out. And again, as I said in the beginning of this course, this is not a dissertation. You don't have to necessarily show some statistically significant aspect of some novel new thing. So you just have to be able to demonstrate that you can apply what you've learned in the program. You can express your thoughts on modeling clearly, and you can explain the results in your analysis in a clear, cogent fashion.
Yeah, I mean, before we get to the building a predictive model, or before we start using machine learning, before that it's just purely statistic analysis to find out whether the relationship is statistically significant. So if it is not significant, so there is no question of creating a model. Now, the second question would be, while we are doing that or playing with the data and looking at different aspects of it, if we find that some other variables actually better explain what we are looking at, could we use those variables and then go ahead?
Yeah, that's why they call it research, right? I mean, you can't always predict you don't have perfect knowledge of the future. So you come up with a hypothesis and an introduction explaining kind of what phenomenon you seek to examine. You can explain some of the methods and some of the data sets that you think are valid measures of that. But as you conduct exploratory data analysis, you're going to discover some things that you didn't know, and you're going to have to rejigger your model and rethink your variables and sort of recast the research, to some degree throughout the process.
Another question about the literature review for the proposal.
Yeah.
In your document, I think in the syllabus, you say that we have to include prior research that we'll be using in our research. What if we? I mean, I can go through. I mean, I have gone through some interesting articles, but I'm not planning to use them.
I'm kind of. I'm not sure I should confess this, but I'm kind of lax about that. Simply because, again, this is not a dissertation course. It's a master's thesis course. So I expect you to, learn and do some research and give some thoughts on what the prior research has, but in a few paragraphs. I don't expect you to do any detailed literature review. So just hit the high points of the main, research that's around, the classics, and then just move on. But, just explain how this stuff affects or is related to your hypothesis or your theory on what you think this phenomenon is and why. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think I get this. Because the examples you gave us, like 3 examples of good paper at the beginning of this semester. Yeah, I have gone through them, and they vary radically. So one of them actually did not add anything in, but other one is really detailed. So
that's a fair criticism, and this is a data science course, so I really focus on are first of all, does the hypothesis make sense? Is it a practical, clear, concise explanation of what's some phenomenon you're measuring? Do the variables make sense, and do the model and the methods make sense? And do you describe the results of that model accurate? I'm not big on theory building or literature review. Again,
okay.
if this was a research methods course, I would, but this is a data.
I think I get it.
Yeah. So
for tomorrow's submission, you're not expecting. At least I don't think I'm going to be able to add literature review. In there, probably I can mention the literature I have gone through, but may not write all those, or may not finish it.
I would encourage you just to reread. I think it's somewhere in the syllabus what I'm really looking for in the proposal, and just if you can hit those 3 or 4 points or whatever that is, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a detailed literature review, and I don't expect you to have, be able to predict the future, and say this is all going to work. So I assume that you're going to have to fiddle around with your variables. I assume you're probably going to give some thought into some other factors that you might want to introduce as control variables. That's what I would expect you to start doing after you get your proposal approved, is start to do some exploratory data analysis and start to, figure out exactly how you're going to skin this cat.
Okay, thank you. I think I have much better understanding now.
You're welcome. Glad to be of help. Anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns? I don't know, anything. Neil, did you have your phone line open at one point, or were you going to say something, or did I just get that wrong? Neil? Well, okay, I don't hear from him. Andy, do you have any questions? Sang-Yoon? Oh,
can you hear me?
Yes, Neil, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I thought I was online. I muted myself. So as far as the what we can expect the audience to have as far as their level of familiarity with data science and sophistication. So if we were to assume a general business audience, like a typical audience for HBR articles or some general business publication, then there isn't much that we can actually discuss. We could do all the experiments, but when we write the report, it has to be at the level of the general business journals, right? Is that what you're looking for, or can we? Because in the syllabus, you do mention that some of the students in the past have gone on to publications in scientific journals. So I guess how do we? What's the right balance? Is my question.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think given your topic, I think, I can give you more latitude in talking to a more sophisticated audience. The whole point of it, Neil, is to, a lot of our students really don't get the opportunity to pull all together, apply what they've learned on a given business problem, and then be expected to, communicate that orally and in writing their results. And so this class is the course that sort of torches you into having that experience and learning from it. And so given your topic, I would expect, don't try to dumb it down and explain every little thing. For example, I'll give you an example. There's one student, I've forgotten who it was, but you went into a description of what a correlation matrix was. You don't have to do that. I mean, you don't have to explain what a regression model is. I mean, you just can assume that people know what that is. But it's, I'm trying to get you to, just concisely and accurately explain the significance of what you're doing and the significance of what you're doing and the results. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So I think I do remember that discussion. Yeah. So my plan is to have this submitted to publications like the Annals of Statistics or publication at that level. Yeah. Most of the literature that I cite are from that journal. Okay. Is that okay, or should I aim maybe a more general audience?
No, write to your audience, and if that's your audience, then write to that. I'm just trying to, if you read the 3 examples I sent you, their topics vary all over the place, and the style of writing varies all over the place, and the audience varies all over the place. But I'm just trying to, level set. And so if that's your audience, then, then I would expect your paper to be a little more technical than, the other average paper.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, Andy Huang, were you about to say something or ask a question? I think I cut you off.
I think you actually answered, some of the questions that I was going to ask from answering to other students. But then, in regards to the level of audience, so you are mentioning that our target is to actually, delivering message to the business people. But then, so for example, I'm researching on the deep learning methods and the machine learning method, and try to figure out which one is better for some type of business problem, for instance. But do we just as Julian asked, do we also have to sometimes use like a dash or flash? And if we use it, then where do we cite that information? Do we cite it on the paper, or do we have to submit it separately?
You would show it the results of that data visualization or analysis in the paper to be able to discuss it.
Okay.
So that you can show me what you're talking about and the reader to talking about.
Okay.
But in addition to do that, if you want to post that on GitHub or LinkedIn or ePortfolio or whatever, yeah, you're more than encouraged to do that. I was just describing to Julian, just for the practical purposes of reading and commenting and editing your work. It's just Word is just a more efficient way for me to do that.
Okay, gotcha.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Is the feedback helping? I hope so, but I don't. I wonder sometimes.
Yeah, personally, to me, it was very helpful because I realized how difficult it is to simplify the language into some form of communication. So, yeah, I think that your feedback generally helped me a lot
All right.
in articulating the sentences. So, yeah, I think it was really helpful.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Again, it's as explained in the syllabus, data scientists are no longer a back office function. We're really being expected to present, explain, justify um, decisions, very important decisions, and so it's important that um, we expose our students to this exercise to help them prepare for that. And if you can get a nice portfolio out of it, or even a published article, all the better. But it's really the learning objectives of this exercise that kind of matter. Okay. We're only halfway through this, but if all you people are okay, then I can close this out. I just want to make sure. Last chance. Does anyone have any further comments or questions or anything they want to share with the group?
Professor, I have a question. This is
Sure.
Johannes speaking.
Yes.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and thank you for the general feedback on my proposal as well. I do really highly appreciate that.
Okay.
So my question is, as you can see on the comment section, you prefer me to develop a more sophisticated model than a simple correlation of rental prices and pollutants, such as demographic or socioeconomic factors. I really like this idea, and I am able to do, but I really want to know or understand how the topic would be framed. Because firstly, I was focusing only on the air quality versus the rental prices in New York City.
Uh-huh.
If I'm changing it into cover more demographic or socioeconomic factors, do I need to change the title, or do you have any advice on these aspects? Thank you so much.
Okay. I mean, I can talk about this offline, but maybe it'd be interesting for the other students to listen in. So basically, Johannes was doing a study on essentially what I would call environmental inequality. That he was looking at levels of benzene in the air and rental rates, apartment rental prices in New York City. And the problem with choosing that benzene as a variable for air pollution, most benzene is not environmentally based, it's behavioral based. So if he was doing a study on smokers in New York City, benzene would be a perfect variable to use because about half of the benzene produced in the air is from smoking, and about another 20% is from, I think, driving habits. So it's really behavioral, not environmental. So if you want to do a paper on, what I'd call environmental inequality, meaning people less fortunate, less further down on the income ladder, live in more dangerous, more polluted environments, you'd have to pick different pollutants. And the EPA and there's data.gov has they have tons of pollution data on different area codes and different tracks in the city. So you and that's what I recommended he do is look at that and then maybe correlate it with some other factors, social demographics, racial numbers, to try to sort of choose more statistically valid measures of what he's trying to show. And Johannes, that's what I would suggest you do. Start to clarify what you really want to show, and if it is, environmental inequality, if that's what you're trying to show, then pick some, better, more representative variables to show that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Thank you. Thank you.
And that's the whole purpose of the proposal is I need you, to get on the right path. You don't want to, be halfway through something and then have to redo it. You want to get a path that makes sense, that's achievable. And that's what the whole purpose of this exercise is. The proposal.
Oh, yes.
The proposal.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions and comments and concerns before we leave? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining the call. I'll do a quick recap and send it around, and I'll also post this recording on the website. And in the interim, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Good night.